Welcome to Amiga Ireland. I'm Irla.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Luke.
It's the 1st of November and there are a lot of new Amiga hardware releases at the moment. We're also going to talk about some new gaming releases, errata.online, and we introduce our guest for Amiga Ireland in January. And as always, we've got some music coming up. But first, guys, how are you doing?
Oh, not too bad, thank you very much. I've been focusing on a freshly opened Amiga online store called RetroReady.one. It's been a little bit of a baby of mine, like a second baby, because I've got a little daughter as well. This one is the second.
Don't let your wife hear you saying that.
Yeah. So it's been taking the rest of my free time. I've just received a great package from Rustport, from Poland, from Krashan, and great stuff that I'm going to put in the store. So why not have a look down there? You won't be disappointed, I'm pretty sure about that.
Congratulations, Luke.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It looks good. What we've seen, with this the PCM-CIA adapter, great stuff there for people upgrading their systems.
I agree. I would like to add one more thing. I would like to thank very much to Irla here. Without his support, I wouldn't have made it, to be honest, And I'm thankful to you.
There you go.
You've done so much for the event and myself over the years. I'm more than happy to help. Yeah, it's looking great. And you've been in this business for over 10 years now, so I mean, it's only right that you've got your own web address.
Thank you very much for your kind words. Thank you.
Rob, how are you doing?
All right, the usual, sleep deprived self, but ticking along nicely. A busy month of Amiga stuff, really. We've got the Kickstarter for the Checkmate 1200 or 1500 case, so that got funded. So now I'm working on the final designs of the various boards that are going into that. Luke here found a bug in my installer gen that meant it didn't work on FPU-less systems, so I've been fixing that and another couple of things with that. It was nice to do a bit of coding again. Then I had an itch that needed scratching, which was OS4 has a sort of a built-in messaging system, where a little pop-up message will appear when you get an email or when something's finished downloading, that kind of thing. Basically, I've made a clone of that for OS3, finalizing that and uploading that. But that was nice. It's something I've been wanting to do. It's only a simple little thing, but, one of those things that has been on my list for a long time.
Fair play.
And, and then I've just got parts now for another batch of my A500 Zorro adapters. So they're sitting here waiting to be assembled. So at some point I'll get around to that. But yeah, so busy times.
Yeah, good stuff. I've been converting videos on my laptop to play on Amiga using a one-liner script that uses FFmpeg. So in theory that should run actually on OS4 and everything. Yeah, so I got a promo video from my wife's YouTube channel, downloaded it and ran this command on it, popped it on the Amiga, and the HV file played. It was grainy, but it was clear. The sound was decent enough and the picture was good. Yeah, I'm going to maybe look into tweaking it a bit more before I start working on, my DVD collection. That's
pretty amazing. And it renders it as a sort of a ham animation. Isn't that right?
That's right. Yeah. It converts the audio to mono. I'm going to talk more about it later, but it's the easiest method I've found so far. Also, the museum had a Halloween night. The whole place was lit up, not just the Commodore section. George Sokianos came along, which was nice to meet, a new Amigan. George was involved with running the Athens gatherings for Amiga, so it was nice to have a bit of a chat with him. I ended up tethered to the green screen area doing crowd control for the kids, but we got to talk a little bit anyway, at least. George is living in Ireland now, so hopefully we'll be seeing more of George. Okay, let's go on to the news.
Okay, first up, Kipper 2K has been working on a project for replacement keyboards for Amigas. This is very exciting, especially if keyboard fans out there, because basically designed and built a circuit board that will take Cherry MX keys. Now, any keyboard aficionados will know that that's kind of a nice keyboard to use. People will have their own favourite variety of Cherry key, and these can be sort of assembled to order. So you can buy the board, fit all the switches, or buy one that's pre-assembled and the certain switches. And yeah, they're working on getting keycaps for them because it's a different type, unfortunately, to the type that are on the A1200.net cases. This is very exciting stuff, and I'm hoping to have an early version to try out now in the next month or so. So looking forward to that.
Paceja has drawn very stylish icons for Amiga OS 3.0, 3.1, 3.9, maybe even 2.0. The most interesting thing is that they are actually only 4-color icons, and they work also on low-end Amigas. They work really nicely, to be honest. Only 4 colors. They look really, really nice and stylish. If you want to see them, just have a look at the show notes. There's also the link to the archive where you can download them.
John Ozenden is creating a distributed software system that can run native Amiga applications, and you can log into this remotely. So he talks about being on an airplane and logging into this Amiga system from his phone, I think, and getting the Amiga desktop up on his phone, being able to do some work and signing back out again. It sounds really interesting. It sounds a little bit like Friend, but he says it's very different to the Friend system. So the link is in the show notes for anyone who wants to learn more about that.
Sounds awesome. erosexec.org has moved. They've moved to ae.amigalife.org. Now, this is the forum that's dedicated specifically to the Eros system, so Eros fans will be familiar with that. If you're like me and you occasionally dip in and out, you might be, surprised. It might catch you out and you might be wondering where everything's gone, but it's still there. It's just moved to a different address.
Ben Daglish, one of the best C64 music composers, died. He was just 52. One of my favorite, actually, songs written by him was the music from Last Ninja, Part 1. Apart from that, he wrote countless tunes for C64 and Amiga. It's a pity he died. You will be greatly missed.
Yeah, lots of posts and messages and activity online about that. The Amiga Open Source Preservation Project are looking for help to increase their pace of development or the preservation work that they're doing. So if anybody is interested in the work they're doing, we have a link in the show note and you can see what they do, offer to chip in and help them out if you want.
Aaron Smith of Amiga on the Lake, an Amiga retailer in the US, has been saying that they've ordered more X5000 systems than any other retailer in the world. Quite impressive. And also that half their customers are new to OS4 and a quarter have no prior exposure to the Amiga. Bizarre, to be honest. Great to hear that there are people coming into this and buying the system, which is great. It just seems to be doing very well over there, which is awesome.
It sounds like there was an untapped something there.
Yeah, because the Amiga wasn't nearly as big there as it was in Europe, and I wonder if that's maybe sort of part of it. That there aren't so many massively upgraded classic systems out there, and people it means there are more new people.
Yeah.
Interesting, yeah. America's
a huge market, to be honest. I remember that C64 was really popular in America. And then Amiga 2000 and 4000, they were also very popular. But small Amigas like 500 or 1200, not to mention 600, they were just totally unknown or forgotten.
Yeah, it's strange.
Comparing to Europe, which was just massive.
It's amazing now because you get people in the US who are buying European Amigas for serious money and paying for the shipping across the Atlantic and all that.
PAL systems. Yeah.
Impressive.
Retro Ready is a new online shop specializing in Amiga and occasionally other systems as well. The address is www.retroready.one. And at the moment, there are a lot of replacements and upgrades for especially the Amiga 600 and the Amiga 1200. Of course, it's our own Luke heading that up. And I see you've got some tutorials on how to do stuff with Wi-Fi and things like that, Luke. So that's pretty cool.
Just helps some people, to, instead of browsing around the internet, it's just easier to find some stuff, just over there. And I can assure you that it'll be developed.
Excellent stuff.
Oh, thank you very much for that.
You spent a lot of time on the various forums sorting out people's Wi-Fi problems. Nice to have them all in one place again.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And thank you very much for that. Thank you for your kind words, guys.
Okay, more hardware from Kipper2K. This guy's on fire at the moment.
He's a beast.
Yeah. He's designed an 8 megabyte RAM board for the A1200. This is based on the Terrible Fire board for the CD32. It's just sort of started off as that, but has sort of developed its own thing with a different, a new controller on it. And basically it's sort of evolved into a very nice and capable board that has an optional real-time clock on it, for keeping time. And it also has an SD card slot, so that you can use SD card as a hard drive. You can't boot from it, but it is there as storage. And also an SPI interface, which can be used for an optional network add-on. So that's very interesting because a lot of people use the PCM-CIA port for a network, and that would free that up then for using, a compact flash adapter or, a SCSI interface or something like that. This is a nice board for entry-level expansion, for a basic WHD load machine and, with a couple of nice little touches. So it'd be great. That should be here soon enough, and it'd be great to see it.
Okay, so I have a question about that because I was actually going to ask you something, and it sounds like that might be the solution. I'm going to be putting movies, it looks like, onto SD or compact flash and using that on the PCM-CIA. But I also have a networking card that I got from Retro Ready. And at the moment I'm swapping them back and forth a lot, and I would really like to just leave the network card in and not have to do that.
Basically, this SPI interface lets you add sort of industry standard Ethernet module. So, it won't be made for the Amiga specifically. And that means a couple of things. On the plus side, it means it's very cheap. So you're not paying, 100 quid for a network card, which is, not beyond the realms of possibility for a custom network card. But it also means it's not specifically a fit for the Amiga either. So it'll probably mean, 3D printing a bracket for the back of the machine or having to figure out how to get the Ethernet cable or the socket out of the machine somewhere along the way. But it's certainly doable. People now with 3D printers printing brackets for everything. So I'm sure someone will come up with a solution soon enough for it.
The company that I work with, and I'm the distributor of their products, that Rasport produced some sort of extension for the PCM-CIA cards so that you can, for example, put two at the same time and switch between them. So you wouldn't have to, you wouldn't have to actually take out, for example, network card in order to use the SD adapter or CF adapter. So, something like that. It is doable.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, very nice. Thanks, Luke.
Again, that takes time. It was just a suggestion, and I'm pretty sure this suggestion will be taken into consideration.
Nice. I'll keep an eye out for that.
I'll keep you updated anyway.
Cool. Yeah, and for anyone who wants to keep an eye on your upcoming products, Luke, where should they go? Do you have social media or anything?
Either social media, Facebook, Twitter, Retro Ready Facebook and Retro Ready Twitter as well, and online store and eBay store. eBay store is just Retro Ready 1 and online store Retro Ready.1. That's ONE. So, yeah. Shall we go back to news? Because we got sidetracked as well. Microsoft Tools, however it may sound, is a little tool for MorphOS, actually. We haven't talked about MorphOS for quite some time. It's a tool to display different Microsoft Office documents formats. I haven't checked that, to be honest, because my activity regarding NG Amigas is just as low as the floor recently due to lack of time, but according to the documentation, this archive is pretty interesting, this tool. It allows to read certain documents on MorphOS. It could be an entry to something bigger, maybe.
Absolutely.
And another one is DZ-Torrent. It's a torrent client. It actually hit version 2. The developer has been working on it really intensively, to be honest. And torrent client on 68K Amiga? Sure, why not?
This one is something I came across a few days ago, and it has really blown my mind. So, like, if you remember watching like the sci-fi movies back in the 80s, like where the computer systems just looked so cool, and I'm thinking of the Alien movies, Escape from New York or something.
Escape from New York, that's right.
Terminator, the heads-up display, the Terminator sees when he's going around. So, these kind of really lo-fi kind of interfaces, but they were connected to everything and actually provided good info and stuff. They were really unimaginable, and it was years before we got to near that kind of stuff. But actually, that's not really true, because in 1960, a system called Plato was begun, and I had never heard of this before, but it basically provided a networked system that provides some pretty cool features. Now, at the moment, there's a terminal called Plato Term 64 that you can get for the Commodore 64, and there's one in the works for Amiga as well. I'm going to talk a bit more about this later on in Discoveries, but basically you can connect these clients to the system as well as other clients like the ZX Spectrum, the Atari 8-bit, the Apple II, Windows, Mac and Linux, iOS, Android. There's others I've forgotten. And basically you connect to this environment and it's all rendered in line art and custom fonts. So even the ZX Spectrum can display it. It supports touchscreen. So if you have a touch device, you can use it that way, and you can play multiplayer gaming. There's educational applications and software. And actually, I just learned today there's about 16,000 educational titles on it since the 1960s, and they're still creating software today. And it's got a built-in development environment too, so you can log into the development area, start working on a project, collaborate with other people on the code, and then provide a new service or application to other users. It's insane.
That's pretty amazing, all right.
Irata.online, you go and check it out, have a look at some of the videos and read it. It really is new retro wave.
Last news item for today. There's a version of Pigeon that's been released for OS4. If anyone's familiar with this on Linux, it's sort of a chat client that supports plugins that basically support loads of different protocols, including Skype, which is very impressive. So this is only an early version, but it does work, apparently. I haven't tried it yet. But it's an almost direct compile from the Linux version, and it runs under AMI Signix, which is sort of basically an X environment on OS4. It's a long time since I think we had a Jabberwocky port, but that was quite a while ago, and I think it was pretty much dead in the water for a while.
I think it's outdated now due to certificates, I think, you know.
It was, yeah. I use it. I haven't used it in a long time, but I used it years ago, and it was
Jabber was very popular at some point.
Pretty good, yeah. But anyways, yeah. So this is a kind of the same idea. If you use Jabberwocky, you'll be familiar with this, or if you've used it on Linux, because it is quite good on Linux, actually.
Okay, let's move on to the game section.
The first one is actually Gianna Sisters, which celebrates 30th anniversary. It's an updated version of Gianna Sister, and it's some say it's just a clone of Mario Brothers, but I don't believe in that, to be honest. It's got its it's got its own touch, its own music, its own graphics. It's, in my opinion, it's not that clunky as, for example, Mario Bros. And it's got that softness, and it's got the music, it's got the animation, and it's got the feel and touch of probably my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
A new release for the Commodore 64, Zataka, has just been released, which is available at csdb.dk. And if you want to visit the link and try it out, you can let us know, because none of us have a clue what it is, because and we haven't had time to check it out properly. So if you try out Zataka, let us know. Send us an email or get us on social media.
Sorted.
There you go. There's a game. I'm just going to have a go at this. Amiga, A minor, yeah. But basically, it's a new Amiga game, and it was written for the RetroComp 2018, and came second. And it's interesting looking. It's basically sort of one of these, forced scroll type games where you sort of have to keep up with the screen, and you're constantly digging down through the ground and avoiding rocky patches and trying to pick up minerals and jewels and things like that from the ground. And it's an interesting take on the forced scroll thing, and it has a 2-player mode on it as well. And it looks like it could be a lot of fun to play. I haven't played it yet, but the video looks very good.
Knights of Law, it's for C128 is in development, and it's supporting the VIC-2 and the VDC. And for those of you who don't know or haven't heard about Knights of Law, it's a first 3D game, like a vertical, I think, from 1984. It was a massive hit on ZX Spectrum, as far as I remember.
I have to check that out. I don't know anyone with a C128. Oh, I do. I think I know someone with a C128.
I'm sure you know
I'd be very
that
interested
game.
in that. Yeah. I'm trying to think of the original game myself, but sure, I will check that out. So, RetroComp. This is, you're going to have to help me out, Luke, here.
Gdańsk. Mm-hmm.
Gdańsk. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. But anyway, so the game there's a game competition here, and there's a list of the winning entries for that. Obviously there are demo competitions as well, but you can see some familiar names there, like Thanks Furry in the top 10. Good games there to check out, because there are so many games that are sort of come out of the woodwork and really, really deserve a bit more publicity. So it is a nice selection of them there to have a go at.
And Invaders is a Space Invaders clone currently in development for Amiga, and Indie Retro News has the scoop there, as well as some screenshots, and it's actually looking really nice considering it's not even finished. It's looking good already.
And Barbarian, there's I think everyone knows Barbarian at this stage, but this is for the C64 version. There's now a He-Man edition, which is basically they just replace the graphics with He-Man. It looks exactly as you imagine it would. This is very good.
This is so cool, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like Skeleton fighting human in front of the castle.
It's fantastic.
Really, it's really good. I'm hoping for the playability. I'm hoping that the playability actually is really good as well.
To be honest, I'm sure it's exactly the same. But
it's just so fun to see this one.
Exactly. Well done, guys. Well done.
Okay, let's move on to discoveries.
My discoveries are actually Elite promo video from 1984. I know that all of you are massive fans of Frontier, but guys, have you ever played Elite as well on 8-bit machines?
I was spoilt. You see, I started on the Amiga, and I had Elite on the Amiga.
Oh, so you played on Amiga as well? Elite?
So I had
before
actual
Frontier.
solid polygons, but but it was essentially the same game as the 8-bits, but with solid polygons.
That's right.
Which kind of meant that when I did eventually play it on the 8-bits, I'm like, that's horrible. Which is terrible. But then, going playing Elite 1, even on the Amiga, after playing Frontier, and you're going, But I appreciate it all the same.
Yeah, I started at 64 with Elite, and it was just it was just one of my top 10, if not, my favorite game at some point, including Revs as well. Yeah. So I spent countless hours, on my C64 playing that one. And the promo looks really, really nice, considering it's just, a 1984.
Yeah, well, it's a really cool video to watch, actually, because it is very 1984.
Yeah, it is.
And the voiceover, everything about it is just so 80s.
Yeah, very 80s.
It's fantastic to watch it. It's really, really nostalgic.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna have to look at that now. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's well worth a look. It is really, really good, and it's quite. It's more than just like an ad. It's a few minutes long, and it's really, really
interesting.
But you know what I mean. It's just the very 80s kind of voiceover is just spot on.
Cool. Oh, and for anyone listening, the links to everything we're talking about are in the show notes, so you can come and get it here.
Yep.
Do a searching.
There's just one thing missing. The guy that says, "In the space where everything," or in the cosmos.
Yeah.
Like he starts all his all his trailers for the movies from the 80s. I don't know what's his name. Don LaFontaine. Yeah, Don LaFontaine. In the world, or in a city, in a jungle.
That would have made it perfect.
Yeah, that would have been perfect. Yeah.
My discovery is that you can. So I've been playing around with video on Amiga, like I was saying earlier. So I thought, okay, step one is to play video on Amiga, and actually I had some software already installed thanks to an encounter with you, Luke, on IRC. I think many months ago or years even. So there are already ham videos available to download and try out, and I found something really nice. It was Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. So it's one of our favourites here at home. So so that played really well. It looks and sounds fantastic. Maybe it's something to do with the palette of an animated movie or something, but it is every bit as watchable on the Amiga as it is on the DVD player or whatever. So for starters, it's well worth if you can run the software to experiment with this and try out some of those movies out there. And I have the DVD, blah 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 blah. So Now, when it comes to converting videos to work on Amiga, the story is a bit different. There are 2 tutorials I found online. One was by Majsta, and the other one was by... I can't remember. I'm sorry now, I can't credit the right person. But anyway, basically it involves using a couple of different applications on Windows, and I install those on Linux using Wine. And there's one to kind of deconstruct the movie into frames, usually just still image clips, and then there's another one to extract the audio and convert it to mono 20 kilohertz, kind of, around there. And then there's another application to reassemble them properly, and it's a pretty long involved. It's thoroughly documented, but I struggled with it, to be honest, so I didn't get what I was hoping for until I came across a video on YouTube where somebody had written this script using FFmpeg, and it's called HV Convert. So I'm going to recommend this to anybody who struggles with the guides that are out there. Now, there's one downside. It converts it to ham6 rather than ham8, so there aren't as many colours. It doesn't look as impressive. But I would say that if you've Windows or Mac or Linux, right, even if you're not using Linux, it's easier to install a virtual machine, install Linux and run this script than it is to install all those apps and do this thing that I went through. That's my experience anyway. And I'm hoping to tinker with the FFmpeg if possible, and maybe get ham8 instead of ham6. I don't know how possible it is. But considering it's a one-line command and your video is done, and it's not too bad, it's pretty cool.
Good stuff.
One other thing I was mentioning earlier was the errata online, and there's a book that you can check out called The Friendly Orange Glow. And if you go to platohistory.org, there's a link to it there, I think. And it talks about the history of this amazing cyber worlds that they made back in the 60s that we're only starting to, we've only started recreating since the 90s probably here. And in the show notes, there's a link to a video demonstration of it where he shows the different clients running simultaneously. So he's got a Commodore 64, I think, and an Apple II and a Spectrum ZX and a Linux machine. And he's doing a presentation. So they all accept his invitation to use their screens. And as he types or draws or whatever he does, their screens are updated in real time in the exact same way. It's absolutely bonkers. Oh man, it would be cool even if it was just among the same type of machines, like all Spectrums or all Amigas, but the fact that it's across like Commodore 64, Commodore 128, Spectrum, DOS, it's insane. It's insane. Yeah. And actually, I emailed the author of this. He calls himself the administrator, so I'm not sure what degree of involvement he has in it, but he was saying that he's just done an interview with Scene World. So that I don't think that's been released yet, or it wasn't yesterday when I checked. So if you check out the Scene World podcast, which does a lot of Commodore 64 stuff, actually, you can find out more there.
Yeah, as I was saying earlier, it's really, really impressive. It's astonishing stuff. Now, my discovery here is going to make a lot of people out there feel old. IRC is 30 years old. So I'm sure a lot of people will have fond memories of spending many hours chatting away before times of Facebook and before smartphones and all that kind of stuff. Basically, it was instant messaging before it was cool. That's it. So, but yeah, there's an awful lot of time wasted on IRC back in the day, and I remember in uni. So for anyone who went to DCU or even some outsiders, you might remember the Red Brick system that they have running there, and they had an IRC server, and basically every time I went into a computer lab, I was logged into this. When I was at home, I was logged into it, and they had charts for the lines typed in IRC, and it was regularly up there in the top 10, which is kind of scary. I'm supposed to be drawing things in CAD, and I'm just like chatting away. Yeah.
Brilliant.
But it's because it was the way of messaging and chatting, and there were just channels for everything, and there were servers for everything, and it was just it's still going strong. There's still like plenty of Amiga channels, and there are clients for basically every computer and every system out there. So it's if you've never experienced it, things are a bit quieter than they were before, but it's definitely still a vibrant a vibrant part of the community, and it's definitely worth logging on and having a chat with people.
Yeah, I have some really good memories of the 90s. Getting into these really busy rooms at the time, loads of people chatting away. It was just like, it was crazy having a party in your room.
Yeah. I remember it was really, really difficult to get to some rooms because there was just no room.
Yeah.
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 Oh, yeah, there are limits.
Yeah, there were limits. Yeah.
I forgot about that.
When you're in there, you don't have awful trouble following a conversation because you have 30 or 40 people in there
at the
chatting
same
away
time.
about something. But no, it handled remarkably well, and it still does. It's very good.
They're actually coming out with a new version of IRC, a major version bump.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a chat room. Actually, it could have been a year now since I'm in it, so maybe it's come out. But they have a channel on Freenode, and you can chat to them about the spec. Because I was asking them, I was saying it would be cool if you implemented, like in Discord, where there's a persistence to it,
Yeah.
So you come back and you haven't missed out on anything. But they were saying, look, we can't really implement that. But on the other hand, we can scale way higher than Discord or anything of its kin, So, it swings and roundabouts.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing, because, I know a lot of people had quite customized IRC clients, and I have, I had mine set to record all the logs so that I could go back to them later on, and they were always, automatically FTP'd up afterwards, and so I had them on hand. But essentially conversations were just lost into the ether.
That's just pretty impressive anyway.
Yeah, but I remember, I also had, it would send a message automatically when a new song was playing, and it had all sorts of AREX scripts coming out of every angle of it. But
nice, really nice.
Good times.
Cool.
And that was it. I had a little LCD screen on the front of my Amiga, so even when I wasn't at it would say how many unread messages there were in the channel.
Nice, really nice, really.
So so you'd know, like, if you're sitting there drinking away at a party, which is pretty pathetic, really, and you'd see it like lighting up, saying, "Oh, something interesting's happening."
Nice,
really
geeky, really geeky.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Back in
Do you
the Red
still
Brick
have
days.
that, Rob?
The script, I'm sure it's somewhere. Yeah, I still have that computer. So
and the LCD display.
Yeah.
Can you
still
post the pictures somewhere?
I will.
If you have, some
sure
spare time.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's
I
really cool.
Stuck a picture up of it on the last. Every year there's an International Amiga Day on Jay Minor's birthday, isn't it? And I stuck a picture up of just the screen saying "Happy Amiga Day." I'll dig it up and I'll post it.
Cool. Thanks.
Right. Oh, let's not forget about Amiga-IE RCA channel for Amiga Ireland as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. It's still there.
It's still active.
It's harder It is. Yeah. There's always a few people logged in, even if they're not at their machines. They might be AFK.
That's right.
Okay, let's move on to community news and events. So the next museum, we've just had a Halloween party on Monday night, just gone, but on Friday, the 2nd of November, from 5:30 to 7:30, there's the first Friday meeting again. And thanks to Flirt FM's Galway Gamer for giving us a shout out. Owen, who does the show, has given us a shout out a few times. He's got a really good show as well. The music is fantastic. Like there was like computer game music, but then there was Tin Lizzy and stuff like that. And it was just like, wow, this is great. Like I really enjoyed listening to it. So the link for the Galway Gamer, it's on flirtfm.ie. You can listen in. This is the big one. So in the Computer and Communications Museum of Ireland, we received this package from Retro Ready One. It was a donation, which we were incredibly grateful for, but we were even doubly grateful when we opened it. So inside there was an A570 in immaculate condition. It had all of the packaging and documentation with it. So what this does is basically you attach it to your Amiga 500 and it upgrades it to a CD TV. We flipped a coin, Daniel went and opened it, and there were gasps in the room when this thing came out. So I had a heads up from you, Luke, that there was something coming in the post. I honestly thought because you'd asked me if we had an Amiga 500, I thought it might be an IDE cable so we could slot in a CF card or something, you know. That's what I was expecting. So when the postman came and he had this giant box, I
packed it to the best of my abilities.
It was, you always pack your stuff really well, and this was packed perfectly. And the box is, even the box, so we even have the packaging on display because the box is so good for the A570. It's really Commodore, you know, colours and styling, and yeah, it's absolutely amazing. So so now Alessandro in the museum, so he actually works in the building that the museum is in. He's in part of the research team there, so he is sourcing at least one, I think, CDTV title, so we will have a legitimate one, as well as the less legitimate ones that I've prepared for us. So listen, Retro Ready, thank you so much. We really didn't realise what we were going to be getting when we opened the box, and everyone's incredibly happy. The curator of the museum, Brendan, was incredibly appreciative and asked for your details, your website link, and he's going to tell people about Retro Ready One because you know, we all understand what a big deal that is.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
That's a rare bit of hardware.
I will have some more for you in the future.
Nice.
You're too generous.
Just get ready.
Okay. The Scottish Amiga user group have basically sort of said that 6 months apart is too long apart to have our meetups. So now we're going to have a Christmas meetup in between our normal ones. And that's going to take place on the 9th of December. And that'll be in the same place on the south side of Glasgow. So if you happen to be in Glasgow on the 9th of December, it's a Sunday, pop in. It's at Shawlands Church in G41 3TP. And that'll be from 12 o'clock till 6 in the evening. And then we're going to go on the beer. Yeah.
Cool. Good on you. How often do you meet now?
We've only had 2 meetings, and, you know, we decided to have them 6 months apart. So we sort of like a summer one and a winter one. Basically, people got a bit antsy on the Facebook group and said, like, you know, can't wait till February. So
that's fantastic.
So it's like, right, so fair enough. We'll have them every 3 months maybe. We'll see how it goes anyway. But you know, yes. But I'm surprised the number of people who said they'll go, actually, because, you know, it's prime Christmas party season and Christmas shopping season. So a lot of people have already said, yeah, definitely up for that. So it should be good. We should say thanks to Paul H, who has donated to the Ireland Amiga event as well as booking his ticket. So we really appreciate that, and that's fantastic. We're selling tickets to the Ireland show, so if you haven't got your ticket already, go get it.
And another one is Ms. Mad Lemon's Discord channel can now be accessed from your RIC client. As far as I remember, Amiga's got 2 or even maybe 3 good IRC clients, like, for example, Ami Eritz, that's one. The other one would be Black Ed and Wookie Chat. In order to connect, you just connect to your freenode.net server and then visit #madlemon-main and just say hello. You're always welcome there.
And that was the handiwork of Axel Dominator. So fair play, Axel, for getting that up and running. There's a server running somewhere there making all that magic happen.
That's excellent, yeah.
That's really, really nice of him.
Okay, it's time for Ask Amiga.
Over the last couple of weeks, there's been... I've actually come across several conversations in various forums and on Facebook about 5.25 inch floppy drives and using them on the Amiga. So, you know, some people saying, yeah, this was fairly normal, and other people said, no, that's never happened and stuff. But it's kind of, it's interesting because I know, although the Amiga was obviously designed from the very outset with a 3.5 inch floppy drive in mind, it was at a time in 1984 and 1985 that the 5.25 inch floppy was still kind of the more popular format, and it was still used on most PCs, still only came with that size. So it made a lot of sense to actually make the Amiga compatible with a 5.25 inch floppy drive. But basically the floppy interface on an Amiga is just a very slightly modified Shugart interface, which it's a very low level way of talking to a drive, but it's also very simple in that, you know, you've got a ready signal, and you've got like, you know, a separate signal for, is it write enabled? Is it, you know, turning on and off the motor, moving the head one track in, one track out, you know, this, and, you know, which side of the drive to read and whether it's reading or writing. And then you've just got like 2 data lines, one going in, one coming out. So it's actually quite a simple interface, and the Amiga version is more or less that with a couple of extra little things. But the 5 1/4 inch floppy drive, basically, it looks quite different, but it uses the same interface. And for the 80 track 5 1/4 inch floppy drives, it's basically, the computer can read the ID and tell the difference, but it will work as a 3.5 inch floppy drive without any modification. So the only thing with it is that it doesn't have the automatic detection of disk changes, because a lot of the old 5 1/4 inch drives, you remember you put the disk in, you turned the little lever and you typed A: to get to get it to read the disk on a PC. But on the Amiga, they knew this, and if you look in the operating system, there's still a disk change command, which is still there today, still in the latest versions of it, and that is there to support manually telling the Amiga that a 5 1/4 inch floppy disk has been changed, and to sort of to flush its cache and say this is a new disk. But yeah, so it's actually a lot easier than you would think to read and write 5 1/4 inch floppy disks on the Amiga. And people did it for, people even use it for pirating games because the discs were cheaper. So once you had one of these drives, you could copy it onto these discs that cost like a half the price of a 3.5 inch disc and held the same amount of information. So people just copied them. Once you didn't care about the look of it, it would work just as a 3.5 inch floppy disk would. So, it's quite a bit there. And yeah, like I said, the main reason for that was to transfer information to and from PCs. But it's supported in just the same way.
That's interesting. I have one of those drives for the Commodore 64, so who knows, am I connected up to the Amiga?
Well, the Commodore 64 is a different beast altogether, because that was essentially a computer in a floppy case.
It's got its own RAM as well, so it's just totally something different.
Really?
Yeah.
And the same CPU as the C64 itself has. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. That's why it costs like twice as much as the computer itself. But yeah, it is ridiculous, and people have managed to use the C64 disk drive as a coprocessor, so you can write the code for the disk drive and that'll go off and crunch numbers or whatever while the C64 is doing its own thing. So it's like a multi-CPU system.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that's definitely not a standard 5 1/4 inch floppy drive.
It's a very, very wise device on a C64, I must say. There are even viruses, for C64 and the disk drive, using, like a C64 drive's memory.
In our Eddie Carroll interview, he talked about hiding code, needing extra space for code and hiding it on the floppy drive, actually.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that's right. That's one of the things as well, yeah.
A common trick, yeah. It's but yeah, it's nuts that, people were able to write decrunchers and things like that would run on the floppy drive. And, rather than using the Commodore CPU itself, because the actual, the floppy drive bus is very, very slow on the C64. So, it helped a lot to crunch things and decrunch them on the drive itself. Okay,
let's move on to online activity. We've got some more members. I can't believe it. After only another month, we've got quite a few new members in the Facebook group. So I'll get started. Hello to Colin Brennan, Michael Regan, James Martin, Michael Carroll, Steve Curry,
Cathal Magna, Grammy Moore, Gary Bartlett, Ravi Abbott, Andy Abazi.
And Gav Curtis, Ola Brandt, Ali Kerr, Brian Johnson, and Jan Halholm. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. Welcome along, guys.
Me too.
Yeah, that's cool. Hi, everybody. And we got a message on SoundCloud from Roar Chowerholm. Chowerholm. Okay, yeah.
I'm going to go with you.
Yeah. And he says, "Where are you guys? I miss your podcast. Hope you're doing well." Thanks for that. Listen, we've stopped using SoundCloud, but we're still rocking. On our Twitter feed, our top tweet was, unsurprisingly, the A570 that we got from Retro Ready, and we put up a little animation, a video loop of a couple of seconds there showing it, and it actually does look really nice. You see the Amiga 500 with the device connected to the left hand side and the CDTV boot screen on the screen. It just looks really cool. I can really imagine that if I had an Amiga 500 back then and got one of those, the euphoria of seeing that boot screen. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And on Facebook, I'm actually having trouble logging into Facebook, so I'm going to have to skip Facebook this month. It's the end of this episode, but before we go, it's time to introduce our guest for Amiga Ireland 2019 in January, who's going to be meeting us over video. And every year we project somebody onto the screen and do an interview with them. So our first time ever doing that, we had David Pleasance. The following year we had John Hare. Yeah, the following year we had a no-show, unfortunately. And this year...
You're building this up now.
It's Volker Vertic, the creator of Settlers.
Oh, that's
good.
really nice. That's great. Congratulations.
Cool, yeah. That's a hell of a pedigree of games he's created there.
Absolutely. I was reading reviews of the Settlers and it was comparing it to what was out at the time, like things like Populous and SimCity and other stuff. It's really interesting to see that snapshot of what Settlers was when it came out. You know, it just had so many different new things. It's incredible. So thanks, Volker, for agreeing to meet us in January. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that interview. So that's it for this episode. Thanks everybody for listening. And if you haven't got your tickets to Amiga Ireland yet, go and book them now while they're still at early bird prices. Oh, if you could please leave us a review on whatever platform you listen to us on, that would be fantastic. Music was by Virtual Dimensions and banjo guy Ollie. And the song this month is from the Best of AHX Volume 1. And this is called Fame by Pink. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Let me just look up Zataka 64 again. I've completely forgotten it. Okay, nope, that's slightly pornographic, whatever's going on.